That's their community.
How would you?
That's why they look the same.
Would you classify Dallas? Dallas is pretty liberal, right?
Yeah, it's liberal, but the suburbs are actually quite conservative. And actually, Dallas didn't defund the police. The crime rate has actually gone down in Dallas.
Well, let's go out to Austin, where Dan Crenshaw calls home. Kidding. Here is Congressman Dan Crenshaw, a member of the House Energy Commerce Committee and former Navy SEAL himself. Is this true what we're saying about Austin?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's part of the family, but there's always somebody in your family who dyes their hair purple and tattoos their eyeballs and puts
It's the crazy uncle
on their lips. You know, it happens. It happens. We still love them. There's Texans.
All right, Congressman, let's talk about something that affects all Texans, including those living in Austin, and that's what's happening at your border. It's a total mess, worst in American history. 1.7 million already came through. And Title 42 has to evaporate on May 23rd because, you know, the pandemic's over. The same pandemic that has kids in masks at 4 years old in New York City and me and everybody in America on wearing masks on flights and trains. The pandemic's not over there. But it's over when it comes to the border and illegal immigrants.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of points to make here. First of all, that's a good question. Is the pandemic over? I'm still wearing this stupid mask on an airplane when I know it doesn't matter on an airplane. We're still doing that. So let's say you rescind that and you say the pandemic's over and then there's no more argument for Title 42. I'll tell you what, there's another argument for Title 42, and that's fentanyl. Fentanyl is another public health crisis. There's actually some great Republicans circulating a bill right now that'll be introduced soon that will tell the administration to do just that. And so the consequences of Title 42 being repealed are immense because this was a tool given to the executive that allows them to enforce the border in greater ways than normal. Basically, that's what it is. Without it, they're expecting perhaps 18,000 crossings a day. 18,000 a day. Right now we're at about 7,000 a day. And Texas bears the brunt of this in a very serious way. Last week we had almost 30,000 crossings. We have spent almost $5 billion dealing with this crisis over the last 5 years. That's not fair to Texans. We're sick of it. And then a lot of these migrants get dropped off in our communities, and those communities get hurt, right? Because all of their facilities, all of their assets are overwhelmed. It's not fair. So Governor Abbott has a good idea. He's going to take a bunch of charter buses and send them to D.C. And I like the sound of that. Now, he says he's going to send them to the U.S. Capitol. I would kindly ask the governor to also consider sending them to Kamala Harris's house. The vice president's house is in the Naval Observatory. Perhaps send them there because, look, Kamala Harris has forgotten she's the border czar. So maybe if you put some busloads of illegal immigrants right in her backyard, I mean, there is a wall there, so they're going to have to figure that out. But put them there so she can finally start paying attention to this crisis at our border.
Congressman, what do you think the end goal is? You're a Texan, I'm a Texan. If you look at those border areas that were once Democrat, they're starting to flip. Even the Democrats in Texas are over this issue. So what is the end goal for the National Democratic Party allowing this to happen?
Two things. I do cynically think that they believe down the road that these people will vote for them. Now, I don't actually think that's true. That doesn't worry me, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think they will vote for them, in large numbers at least. The second thing is you have to understand the way the Democrat thinks. They have this sort of pathological compassion where they see anybody in need and they're like, we have to help them. And they're like, yeah, but helping them has all of these other consequences, and it brings in 10 more and 10 more, and there's no limit to this. Do you care about other things that are moral questions, like sovereignty of your country, protection of your borders, protection of your people? Do you care about that? Where's the compassion for that? So they see one thing, and they emotionally drive right towards it, and that's how you end up with this open border policy.
All right, well, the White House is forced to have more cleanup, another job for Jen Psaki yesterday because the president was speaking to a group of workers and union workers, and he'd already said we're not putting boots on the ground in Ukraine, but he made a joke, and the joke fell flat, and then Jen Psaki was forced to clean it up. Watch both of these. We're going to put them together, and then we'll get your reaction on the other side.
This fight is far from over. Here's the point. This war could continue for a long time. But the United States will continue to stand with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in the fight for freedom. And I just want you to know that. And by the way, if I got to go to war, I'm going with you guys.
There's no intention of sending troops to the ground or fighting a war with the U.S. forces against Russia. That was a reflection of his long love for labor unions and members of labor unions and the building and trades workers who were there and people that he would always love to be in the foxhole with, not an indication of a change in U.S. policy.
You know, Dan, a year and a half ago, everything Donald Trump said, they scrutinized. It was all over every single channel, every word he said. And then President Biden, when he was running at the time, said words matter. Why don't his words matter? Because the other press, other media outlets don't report on all of this, on all of these things that the White House has to clean up.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you elect old Grandpa Joe. He says some nutty things. And look, I agree with your point that everything Trump said was taken as if he meant it. He meant it 100%. There's no way he was joking. There's no way it was just an off-the-cuff statement. It was serious, and we were all like, it's not. Look, you can tell. Like, be a human being. You can tell when somebody is joking and when they're not. And so I take the same stance here. I mean, it was clearly a joke. It was a weird joke. Like, right. if you're going to make that joke, make it with troops. Like, you're not going to war with union workers. That doesn't even make any sense. So the joke doesn't even make any sense. But again, this is what you get. I think what drives people crazy about Joe Biden is this sort of old, doddering kind of personality that doesn't seem like he can lead us in times of trouble. And I think fundamentally, I think that's what's worrying us all.
Dan, why are we content to say things like, this war is going to last a long time, when we start walking through these towns and seeing people buried in shallow graves, toddlers with their hands sticking out of the dirt? They know what the carnage they're leaving behind. We're watching a slow-moving Holocaust, and we have statements like, "Okay, yeah, this could last a long time." Really, the same people like Mark Milley, who said that Ukraine would fall in 72 hours and they'd lose 15,000 men, and the intel agencies that said Ukraine can't last 96 hours, and the Milley's been wrong over and over again for years there. And now we're just going to say, okay, you know that short war? It's going to be a long war. How many more civilians have to die before we give them weapons to allow them to win this war?
Hey, Brian, you know I 100% agree with that. And what will surprise you is there's a lot of Democrats who agree with that, too. There's a lot of us who collectively believe that the administration is not doing enough. And we're looking for a lot of ways to get weapons to the Ukrainians. I mean, some are private contractors that can simply buy weapons from, say, the Koreans, Javelin equivalents, Stinger equivalents, get those to Ukraine. Because, look, some of our supply, our stash is being depleted. This administration could absolutely be doing more. They haven't sent anti-ship missiles, for instance. Imagine the boost to morale for Ukraine if they were able to take out a Russian ship.
With a harpoon.
It's simple things like that.
Can you answer that question? Why would we not be able to do that?
They make up excuses like it's escalatory. I mean, they briefed Congress the other day about the Polish MiGs, and I thought their answer was pathetic. It said, well, we're not sure if that would be escalatory. And, you know, the MiG-29s, they're not that great. Well, I'm like, well, they're better than nothing. And they said, well, you know, they're not using all of the MiGs they have right now. That's because you can't. Once you have to increase your denominator of MiGs, right. You can only fly so many at a time, because there's maintenance issues. You have to make sure that you keep your inventory alive. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you need more so that you can fly more flights. But they said it's escalatory, and I think that's just such nonsense. Because look, I mean, escalate into what? Escalate into what? Putin committing mass genocide against civilians in Ukraine? Is that what you're worried about? I mean, it's just ridiculous. You're already giving the Ukrainians weapons that they use to kill Russians. Just give them more.
And, Congressman, they're pretending to know more than the Ukrainian people when they predicted that this was going to be over in 72 hours. It's not like they have an ounce of credibility on this topic, but you used to wear the uniform. Do you have full confidence in the commander-in-chief? We want what's good for the country, but with China beating their chest, with Iran beating their chest, and Russia still hacking us, still taunting us, do you have confidence in the President of the United States right now?
Well, no. No, I don't. It's why I didn't vote for him. I knew he would not have this confidence. He does not present himself as a strong leader or a thoughtful decision maker. And that's a problem. Look, I think his cabinet was ready to allow that Polish MiG deal to go through. That's an understanding that I have. I could be wrong. And he said, no, that would be escalatory.
Unbelievable.
And so I think his judgment is off on these things. And look, if you and here's the other problem the administration has done over and over again. They won't stop telling the Russians what they won't do. And that's a problem. You don't say what you will not do in a fight. That's a bad idea. It means that the other person knows now how to beat you because they know what you will refuse to do. And if Biden keeps doing that, well, that's a problem.
Dan, LA County Board of Supervisors, they're so mad at Texas and Florida for taking a stand against these woke policies that are being taught to our kids. And they're citing the new parental rights bill down in Florida. So they have told the Board of Supervisors, we're not going to conduct any county business in the state of Florida or your state, the state of Texas. I'm sure you're,
no more travel.
Right, no more travel. How do you feel about this? Are you going to miss them?
Look, Texans are, we're talking about this right now, and we're going to get together and we're going to have a struggle session in a safe space, and we're going to talk about our feelings and how much it hurts our feelings that the LA County supervisors won't come to Texas anymore because it hurts and it really makes us sad. We're really going to miss them.
Right.
And this isn't sarcasm at all. I promise you.
I mean,
but isn't it amazing that Texas, Florida, and now Ohio just want to ban gender and sex talk from K through 3, and that's California's line in the sand?
I mean, look, I hope these people keep going down this track through November. I mean, if this is really the hill you're going to die on, we need to transition small children. I mean, that's their policy stance. Like, 90% of America does not want this, okay? I mean, you do polling on the Florida bill, and Democrats, Republicans overwhelmingly support it once they read the bill. In Texas, they're attacking Texas because Governor Abbott simply ordered Child Protective Services to investigate these instances of children being transitioned. This is very unhealthy for children. Look, I mean, look, little kids say things, act certain ways all the time. It is not the adult's job to affirm that new identity of the day and then take physical action to make them that. That's crazy, and it's extremely unhealthy. And if Democrats keep going down this path and putting men in women's sports, then they're going to lose the country. Frankly, they already have, to be honest. I think if the election was today, we'd crush them. But here's another theory on the LA County supervisors. Maybe they're trying to keep Californians from leaving because too many are trying. You know, just earlier this year, California ran out of U-Hauls. Like, you couldn't get a U-Haul in California because so many people are fleeing California because of all that nonsense. So, hey, it's another theory.
Yeah.
Right.
They want to be in the free state of Texas, but they want to bring their policies with them.
You know, my takeaway is, did you say that we have to go to, people are going through, private groups have to go to private contractors to get weapons to the Ukrainians because the U.S. government won't? That is so unbelievable.
It's despicable.
Congressman, thank you so much.
Thanks, Congressman.